This movie is the remarkable story of Agojie, the all-female unit of warriors who protected the African Kingdom of Dahomey in the 1800s with skills and a fierceness, unlike anything the world has ever seen. Inspired by true events, the Woman King follows the emotionally epic journey of General Nanisca as she trains the next generation of recruits and readies them for battle against an enemy determined to destroy their way of life. Some things are worth fighting for. Welcome to Review Recapped. Appreciate our efforts by subscribing and turning on the notifications, please. It means a lot. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy. The movie opens up showing us West Africa, 1823. An opening crawl states that the Kingdom of Dahomey has crowned a young king, Agojie. Their enemies, the Oyo Empire, have teamed up with the Mahi people to capture Dahomey villagers and give them to European slave traders. The Oyo Empire has an advantage with their guns and horses. Dahomey has a group of female Amazon warriors, the Agojie, led by General Nanisca, who are set to protect their kingdom. The Agojie infiltrate a Mahi village, slaughtering the soldiers before coming across the captured villagers and freeing them. In the morning, the Agojie mourn their dead and escort the captives back home. The warriors return home before more Oyo soldiers arrive, and Agojie considers Nanisca to be his most trusted soldier. A young woman, Nyawi, is brought to a man who would marry her, even though he is older and brutish. When Nyawi doesn't respond to the man, he slaps her, and she responds by pushing him hard enough for him to fall over. He is angered and refuses to marry her. Nyawi's father brings her to the Agojie and offers her to the king. She is taken in by an Agojie soldier, Agojie. Oyo soldiers, led by General Oba Ade, come across the corpses of their comrades. Oba Ade insults them for letting their fellow soldiers get murdered by women, and they plan their next move against Dahomey. Agojie addresses his council to discuss the Oyo threat. Nanisca also brings up the slave trade and says it casts a dark shadow on their kingdom to be selling off their people. She proposes that they deal in gold or palm oil for trading. Agojie tells Nanisca to show him how much palm oil they can produce before he makes his decision. Nanisca's right-hand woman Amenza addresses the new Agojie recruits, telling them they will fight and potentially die for their kingdom. Several women leave, but a large group, including Nyawi, choose to stay. Agojie then tells Nyawi to go bathe, so she does and speaks personally to Nanisca. The women begin their training. Nyawi does not understand why they begin with ropes, feeling she should start with a bladed weapon until Nanisca allows her to try on a wooden statue to decapitate it. The sword is too heavy for Nyawi, and Nanisca chops the head off with one swing. At night, Agojie speaks to Nyawi and talks about how her mother allowed men to abuse her until she fought back. The women continue training later on by running, firing rifles, and learning combat skills. Nyawi plays a prank where she sets off a small explosive on one of the statues. She takes the blame for it as Nanisca chastises her for it. Later we see that Agojie tells Nyawi about how Nanisca's deeds are considered legendary since she rose to her ranks after being a captive left for dead. Amenza visits Nanisca in her hut, and then tells her, using special nuts, that she sees somebody from Nanisca's past coming back for her. Outside, Nanisca watches as Nyawi practices her sword-wielding skills on one of the statues. The Oyo arrive at the kingdom's gates for a confrontation with Agojie. When Oba Ade steps forward, Nanisca becomes horrified, as Oba Ade raped her repeatedly when she was a captive. They order tributes and demand 40 Agojie warriors, but Agojie only allows 20. Nanisca tells Amenza that her vision was true. Portuguese settlers arrived in Africa, led by Captain Santo Ferreira and his friend Malik, the latter of whose mother was Dahomey. When Malik sees the captured natives, he feels horrified. The men join the scene as the Agojie confront the Oyo. Nanisca says they will not give them tributes and instead delivers Oba Ade the severed heads of his men. A fight breaks out between the two tribes, wherein Nyawi sees an opportunity to free the captives, which Nanisca says deviates from their plan. After they escape, Nanisca chews Nyawi out for it, but Amenza privately tells Nanisca that it was she who deviated from the plan, as she was more concerned with killing Oba Ade. Ferreira and Malik meet with Oba Ade and his soldiers as they are discussing plans for the Oyo to team up with other tribes to invade Dahomey and capture more villagers to sell off. Malik appears uncomfortable with the news. He later goes by the water to bathe, where he is found by Nyawi. She accuses him of being a slave, but he denies it and tells her about his Dahomey heritage. He gives her a piece of jewelry before she retreats to the others. The kingdom holds a small tournament where the Agojie trainees go through an obstacle course involving thorn bushes, climbing a wall, fighting enemies, and finally decapitating one of the statues. Nyawi comes out as the victor, and Agojie acknowledges her skill and talent. Later, while tending to Nyawi's wounds, Nanisca feels something on the girl's arm. She goes back to her room and is followed by Amenza, as Nanisca asks her about a child that she had given up long ago because she is beginning to suspect that Nyawi might be that child. Ferreira speaks to Gezo about his plans to potentially cease Dahomey's part in the slave trade, telling him that his riches come from the slaves, and without them, his kingdom would be nothing and unprotected. Gezo retorts that if the Europeans are no longer of use to him, then they are also unprotected. Agojie senses that Nyawi might like Malik after watching them speak discreetly while Ferreira was talking to Gezo. They later meet secretly, and Nyawi gives Malik a totem to keep him safe. When he says that he has nothing to give her, she simply takes one of his knives. Nyawi goes to bathe and encounters Nanisca, who chastises her for sneaking off for Malik. After arguing, Nanisca approaches Nyawi and tells her about the baby she gave up. She was a product of rape, and Amenza helped Nanisca hide her and give her away. Nanisca remembers cutting the child's left arm and sticking a shark tooth. Nanisca cuts into Nyawi's arm and pulls out the tooth, confirming that Nyawi is indeed her daughter, and therefore the daughter of Oba Ade as well. Nyawi leaves in disbelief. The following morning, Nanisca and some of her soldiers keep an eye out on the Oyo camp. They set fire to their gunpowder and caused multiple explosions, scaring their horses away and leaving them vulnerable. The Agojie launch an attack, leading to a fierce and bloody battle that leaves many Oyo and Agojie dead and leads to some of the women, including Agojie and Nyawi, getting captured. On a wagon heading away, Nyawi finds out the woman's binds have come loose, and she encourages her to roll off the cart and run back to Dahomey. While captive, Nyawi helps Agojie try to fix her broken arm. The young woman returns to Dahomey and informs Nanisca about the Oyo's plan to retaliate against the Agojie. Gezo promotes Nanisca but forbids her from acting any further, but she and Amenza go behind his back to rescue the others. When the European slavers come for the captives, Agojie and Nyawi initiate a fight against them, but Agojie is fatally shot and dies in Nyawi's arms as she wails for her sister. Nyawi is imprisoned, but Malik goes to visit her and tells her how the captives are bound for England, and he wishes to protect her. They are implied to make love after. Nanisca leads the warriors into the European camp for an attack. They set fire to their camp and attack the men before freeing the captives. Malik turns on Ferreira and frees the captives, causing them to drag him into the water, where they beat him and hold his head underwater until he drowns. Nyawi helps Nanisca engage in battle as she finally goes to face off against Oba Ade. The man attempts to beat Nanisca, but she overpowers him and impales him, finally killing him. Everyone returns home, and Nyawi part ways with Malik. In the end, we see that the Agojie return home with their captives, and Nanisca is confronted by Gezo. While he acknowledges that she disobeyed his orders, he is thankful to her for ending the Oyo Empire and officially promotes her to the title of Woman King. Everyone cheers for her. Nyawi goes to pay tribute to Agojie, and she is joined by Nanisca. She then addresses Nyawi as her daughter. The two then go join the others to dance in celebration. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.